Yo, what up? What up? This little dog 7'3", your chosen soldier, Mr. OE, offending everybody. What up, soldiers? Yo, check this out. I want to look at this article right here. It says Dutch farmers rebel. United Nations 2030 agenda is behind the draconian AG shutdown. This is crazy. You got farmers in the Netherlands protesting just so they can do what they do, right? Matter of fact, when you think about businesses, when you say that farmers is probably the most important businessmen in society because so many people rely on farmers for their food. Matter of fact, I'd say majority of everybody rely on farmers for their food. So why are farmers protesting doing what they do? I mean, why is the deep state coming at the farmers? Let's just take a look. It says the war on food in the Netherlands is spawned by the UN's 2030 agenda on sustainable development. Whenever you see this word sustainable, it's always referring to this UN 2030 agenda. So it's always something evil behind sustainable whenever you see that word. Anyway, it says controlling food controls populations, which is true. Taking away fertilizer controls food, which is true. Dutch farmers recognize this and are fighting back. We need to support this important part of the resistance in every way possible. Famines kill. It says the war on food is not a conspiracy theory. Don't let anybody browbeat you with that nonsense. The UN has declared war on ranchers and farmers throughout the world. They have openly written about their hostility towards industrial farming and ranching, substituting other sources of protein such as crickets and insects. Look, the World Economic Forum, they have hostility towards industrial farming. Farming and ranching, this is what sustains life, right? People rely on farmers for food, and food is what everybody needs to live. So, why is there hostility towards farming? It says they would rather you eat crickets and other insects. Why? Oh man, the Netherlands government bought the UN's propaganda hook, line, and sinker and proceeded to demolish its own agriculture industry. This is a war against all humanity and will have devastating effects unless it is terminated immediately. Oh man, this is crazy. Let me see. State control over food production and distribution facilitates deep control over people. Deep control over people. See, that's what it's all about. It's not about saving the planet. It's about having control over people. They sell you the line or the lie of saving the planet, but it's not about that. I'm going to look at a quote from Henry Kissinger. It says, who controls the food supply controls the people. Who controls the energy can control whole continents. Who controls money can control the world. Now, notice this whole climate change agenda. What does it do? We just read about the Dutch farmers that the climate change agenda is putting restrictions on farmers, right? So it says who controls the food supply controls the people. So if you put restrictions on farmers where they can't farm to feed the population, now that gives you control over the people. Now it says who controls energy can control whole continents. So again, the climate control is trying to ban all fossil fuels and natural gases. They're trying to ban all of that, right? Because if you can ban all fossil fuels and petroleum and natural gases, it says you can control continents. And then it says who controls money can control the world. That's why you hear about them trying to bring in this digital currency. See, digital currency, that's a game changer right there because it controls what you can and what you cannot buy. See, right now I can take money, physical money, dollar bills, and I can go and buy whatever I want with these dollar bills. But if I was on a digital currency, then I can only buy things that you give me permission to buy. You feel me? So this whole climate change agenda, all it is propaganda so that these globalists can control the world. They serve Satan, so they have no interest in what's best for the people. It's all about their satanic agenda. So, how do you combat this? Because what's happening in the Netherlands, that definitely can spread throughout the whole world. And when I say spread throughout the whole world, I'm talking about pretty quickly because this whole agenda, this climate change agenda, they're trying to pursue this by 2030, which 2030 is just 7 more years. So within the next 7 years, you know, this world would be, it seemed like it'd almost be hard to survive in this world. So what's the answer? So the answer, put like this, everything that these evil people is trying to do, God always has the answer for it. Always. I want to look at this verse right here. This is Isaiah 46. I'm going to read verse 9 and 10. It says, remember the former things of old, for I am God, and there is none else. I am God, there is none like me, declaring the end from the beginning and from ancient times, the things that are not yet done, saying, my counsel shall stand, and I will do all my pleasure. So we serve a God. Well, for those who do serve God, we serve a God who declares the end from the beginning. So in other words, all this stuff that these globalists are trying to do, God knew about this before he even created the world. He knew people would eventually pursue this. So there's nothing new that these globalists can do, and there's also nothing that these globalists can do that God don't have an answer for. He declares the end from the beginning. Now let's look at this. This is Psalms 37:25. It says, I have been young and now am old, yet I have not seen the righteous forsaken, nor his seed begging bread. His seed begging bread. So what this tells me is that God will always supply all your needs if you belong to him. So if this draconian, let's say if this, what they trying to do to the farmers in the Netherlands, let's say this spread worldwide. What this verse tells me is that I never be begging bread. I serve a God that declared an end from the beginning. He already knew that this was going to happen. I never be begging bread. And this is Hebrews 13:5-6. It says, let your conversation be without covetousness and be content with such things you have. For he hath said, I will never leave thee nor forsake you. God says he will never leave thee nor forsake thee. So if the Agenda 2030, if they're successful in shutting down farming all across the world, God says he will never leave thee nor forsake thee, so that we may boldly say, the Lord is my helper, and I will not fear what man shall do to me. So as long as God is your helper, then you don't fear. You don't fear what man can do to you. Now, I know a lot of people out there. I know a lot of people out there. They, they, they prepping, and I completely agree with prepping. I believe everybody should prep. You should have as much food stored up as you can. Now, the only problem with prepping is you still got to have a relationship with God for the whole prepping thing to work. Because let's just say if you real good at prepping and prepping is all you think about, and let's just say you have a year supply of food and a year supply of water. Let's just say that's what you have. And events like this happens all across the world. Eventually your food supply is going to run out. And then that's when panic is going to kick in, and then chaos is going to follow after that. But what I'm telling you is, yes, go ahead and prep. Prep as much as you can, but you still got to have a relationship with God so that you may boldly say, "The Lord is my helper, my helper. I will not fear what man shall do unto me." So God, knowing the end from the beginning, before he even created this world, he knew all these things would come to pass. And God can allow you to eat real good, regardless of what, regardless of what the government is trying to impose on people. The United Nations are not gods. The Agenda 2030 people are not gods. These people, they put on their pants the same way everybody else do. So don't fear them. All throughout the scriptures, the Bible never tell you to fear any man. The Bible only commands you to fear God. As long as you fear God, you have a relationship with God, and you saved, you gonna be good. You gonna eat good. You gonna feel good. And nothing will be able to discourage you. Because if the Lord is your helper, you will not fear what man should do to you. That's all I got. Christ is King. Make sure you subscribe. Hit that like button. Make sure you comment if you disagree. Comment if you do agree. Yo, Christ is King.